Chris Cuomo goes on the Patrick Bet-David show and makes a complete fool out of himself once again. You know, he talks to everybody in a condescending tone. He makes me sick. He's a murderer. His brother's a murderer. They are responsible for thousands of people, of old people, dying alone during COVID because Chris Cuomo and Andrew Cuomo wouldn't take ventilators from President Trump because they wanted to make him look bad. And nobody gets to ask him about that. Nobody on the PBD show asked him, hey, you and your brother, you're murderers. People call you murderers all the time. Do you want to respond to that? You let thousands of people die. Horrible deaths, older people, lonely, in nursing homes because you didn't want to take ventilators from President Trump to make him look bad. And him and his piece of you-know-what brother should have been charged with murder, and they should have been put in prison. And why do I say that Chris is also responsible? Because he promoted that. He got on TV and he lied to Americans about the entire situation to cover for his lowlife brother. So he comes on the PBD show today, talking to everybody in a condescending tone, making a fool out of himself. You know, I'm really starting to question why Patrick Bet-David allows people like Chris Cuomo, Bill Maher, Stephen A. Smith to come on the show and pretend like they're moderates, that they just want to sit down and have a conversation, that they're the good guys from the Democratic Party. They're different from the Democratic Party. They're centrists. They can sit down with the other side. No, they're not. The only reason why they're playing this card is because they have no other card to play now. So in order for them to retain power again, they have to put on this charade, this facade that they're centrists, and that they're for people, and they could sit down with both sides. But when they were in power, did they do that? Did Chris Cuomo do that? Chris Cuomo was a mouthpiece for Joe Biden and Democrats every single time he was on television. Oh, the border's fine. There's no inflation. There's no crime. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with telling your 5-year-old that he can cut his penis off. Every single thing. Chris Cuomo was the mouthpiece for Democrats. And let's not forget how he attacked Joe Rogan with that communist piece of garbage, Don Lemon. Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon, the two biggest mouthpieces for the Democratic Party, promoting all their garbage and saying how anybody that supported Trump is a Nazi and he's Hitler and they're part of the Hitler Brigade and all the garbage that this murderer spewed out of his mouth. And now he just struts on the PBD show and he's the voice of reason. He's not like his party. He's so different. You get the point. You see where I'm going. Let's jump in and we'll go from there.
Chris Cuomo in the house today. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing great,
yes.
Patrick. Thanks for having me.
Rebirth and renewal.
Rebirth and renewal. That's right.
Easter's coming.
Did you get in the back or no?
Yeah. Good to see you.
Yes. A couple days away. When's the last time you guys did something together? Has it been a minute?
Long time.
It's been a while.
Big fan.
Really?
Yeah. Good to see him.
And
Good to see him.
Do you
Good
guys but you've done things together in the past?
No, we were on competing places, different places, but I always watched what he was doing, trying to figure out why he was beating me.
Sure, Chris.
Well, I was at Fox. It was all things being equal, I mean, you're like the most rational lefty at the time, kind of centrist now, but
He was the most rational lefty, and now he's a centrist. Look at his face. There was nothing rational about this piece of garbage. He promoted every Democratic talking point every day of the week. He's not a centrist. Like, enough with the garbage. No, Chris, the manipulator, the con man, the communist, knows Democrats have no other cards to play. He lost his job. He had to reinvent himself as Chris, the guy that's in the middle, the guy that can roll up his sleeves and have a beer with the other sides. He's full of shit.
We came a long way.
I guess that's a compliment. Most rational.
Yeah, whatever. I take what I can get when I come.
I mean, there's not a lot of common sense on the left, and you had some, which is
You know what?
Yeah,
Rob, I say we make a shirt. Say I'm an ex-rational lefty, and we send a shirt to Chris. Please, I'm sure Chris will wear it.
PBD, you're all about money all the time. You're all about money and having the biggest names on, regardless of whether they're murderers or scum of the planet. So let's have celebrity boxing. First, I want to murk Adam Sosnick, and then I'll move on to Chris Cuomo. You'll make millions. You can keep all the money. I just want a dinner, and I'll beat them up for free. Oh, and you know what? I'm not just saying this because I can't stand Adam. I hate him. So it's not, I have no problem saying I hate Adam Sosnick because I do. So it's the show, and it's not just me because I dislike Adam so much. There seems to be so much of a better vibe when Adam is not there.
He's going to
I think the shirt
replace that
should
with
say
a free
left
agent.
and right. You cross it out, and it says reasonable.
God,
I think that's the shirt.
modern day today.
That's
anyway,
the shirt.
I have to stop it. Oh, he's reasonable now. Chris Cuomo is reasonable now. I guess you didn't watch him on CNN or whatever channel he was on for all those years. Now he's reasonable. Oh, like literally, I hate him, right? 4 years bashing Trump, going after his family, mocking Republicans, mocking God, mocking the country, mocking anybody that supported Trump or had common sense. And now he's Mr. Civility. Now he's Mr. I'm in the middle. Hey, Chris, I'd have more respect for you if you just acted like the piece of shit that you truly are. The murdering piece of shit that you are and your brother are. You and your brother murdered thousands of people because you didn't want President Trump to look good. So let's jump into the tariff part where Chris Cuomo thinks, Chris Cuomo, nobody's smarter than him. Nobody's taller than him. Nobody's stronger than him. He's just a god, and we're all living in his world. Let's listen to idiot murderer Chris Cuomo think that he's more intelligent than President Trump. Chris Cuomo, who hasn't built anything in his entire life, got his job because of his brother to be his brother and Democrats' mouthpiece. What the hell has Chris Cuomo ever built besides absolutely nothing? Let's listen to his expertise on the tariffs.
Number, Rob, if you can verify this, I think it's U.S. 145% tariff on China. China's 125% tariff on U.S. Okay, it doesn't look like it's slowing down. Xi just went to Vietnam. Vietnam was the first person that we said we're going to lift the tariff. So he's going to his neighbors to say, hey, don't forget we have a great relationship together. The whole concept of we'll build this stuff here. We'll say made in China, but we'll put made in Vietnam. We're still going to keep that agreement. Let's not forget some of the stuff that we have going on here. But you're not liking the position they're taking with tariffs. Why is that?
Because again, government getting involved in anything, they screw everything up. Price controls screw up supply demand. You just let supply and demand find the right room.
I couldn't disagree with this guy more. God picks certain people and brings them to power or brings them to certain places at certain times to handle certain things. And President Trump is the only human on the planet in the history of our country who at this point in time can handle the situation to bring America back to its golden age. He is versed in this. He is skilled in this. This is what he does since he's been 19 years old. And we, meaning America, are at a breaking point with debt, with being in war with China. And President Trump is appointed by God to handle this. He's the only man for the job. And when you look back at Trump, from the time he's born until right now, he is born for this moment. God puts leaders in places, and God put President Trump back into power to save America, and American citizens.
Originally, they launched it as we're going to put an equivocal tariff on any certain country, China, Brazil, Germany, whatever you're charging us, we're going to do the same. Reciprocal.
Yeah.
problem is they didn't do that, Patch. What they did was they took the trade imbalance with a country, for example, China, $130 billion trade imbalance. That's what they sell us more than we sell them. And they divided that number by the total export China into America, which is fine, but it's an equation. It has nothing to do with their tariff structure at all. It's a trade imbalance number. And they came up like, I think 64%, and they said, oh, we're going to do 32. They did that with every single country in the world. Had nothing to do with the actual tariffs. So they sold it as, we're going to raise our tariffs reciprocally, and when you lower country A, B, or C, we will lower with you, which is great. That's fine. You want to play that game? Wonderful. Then it became something different. Then it became, we're doing this to everyone, and now we have 15 countries who want to negotiate. Now we have 150 countries that want to negotiate. And it became more about the world leaders coming to the Trump administration and begging for some relief, which isn't the real nature of it. You want to play the tariff game, play it where the purpose is to lower tariffs completely, both directions. And I think they lost that script for a while. They're trying to get it back now. And then this whole idea of choosing certain industries to exempt from tariffs, not necessarily countries, but industries, chips, cell phones, computers. I just don't like, I'm a free market person, Patrick. The free market is what made this country number one, the greatest country on the planet, bar none, because we had the.
China doesn't play by any of the rules, and this moron has a problem with what President Trump is doing. And it's as simple as that. You don't need to be an economic, 10-year degree expert to figure it out what President Trump needs to do to China, our mortal enemy, who, besides the market and industrial jobs and killing our citizens with fentanyl, they do everything to screw America, and only idiots like this have a problem with it. You know what? I'll bet on Trump every time.
The most free business environment markets, and the tariff disrupts that whole apple cart.
Tom, your thoughts on this?
Well, Trump said, I want to leverage things to get the world to come to the table. And so, okay, we're using tariffs, and I'm on board with that. But then the calculation of how you get them to the world, I thought that they kind of lost the headline there, because it's like, wait a minute, to your point, how are you
the 32?
Yeah, how are you calculating to get them to the table? You want to get them to the table and say, hey, look, you got two things here. One of them is tariffs, and you're not really bad on tariffs, Eric, but you know what? I know you're cheating, and I know you got intellectual property things going on, and I know you've got some relabeling on country of origin, and that's annoying. So let's fix that. So maybe the tariff gets them to the table, maybe leverage gets them to the table, so you can talk about all these other things. The biggest one to deal with is China. The biggest one to deal with.
But Tom, I don't mean to interrupt, but they didn't use a tariff and add on difficulty getting into your market or back and forth. They didn't use that. They literally took the trade imbalance of country A, B, or C, and they divided it by the exports
I
into
agree.
America.
That's why I was confused by the calculation, but I understood
which is a
the purpose.
non-formula. It is a formula that does not exist.
So it's a formula, but they didn't.
Analysis.
It's not what they sold us.
Right.
It's not what they said it was going to be.
I don't know how anybody sticks up for China, but I wouldn't expect anything else from Chris Cuomo and this other liberal Democratic plant, whoever he is, because at this point, when you look at China and you've seen everything that they've done to America, TikTok ruining our youth's minds, the LGBTQ madness, the transgenderism, all the garbage they pump into our kids' heads. I don't care if Trump literally cuts China off from the world, starves them out, doesn't even let them have water, as far as I'm concerned. That country is responsible for more deaths than I could even count or come up with a calculator to add up on. More American citizens have died because of China than all the world wars put together.
Be a tariff will raise to you. Oh, and they said we're going to be lenient and only do half.
Right.
But the number they are using is the tariff that we're being charged, had nothing to do with the tariff. And again, I'm putting this on Howard Lutnick, because this is Howard Lutnick's baby here, and I've known that guy for 30 years. I wouldn't trust him to, park my car over there. Lutnick's the problem.
Only the best.
Tell me why.
Only the best.
You want me to tell you why?
Yeah. Trump brings in only the best, though.
What?
You got a problem with that guy, but not scumbag Chris Cuomo sitting next to you, or his brother, the murderer who murdered thousands of New Yorkers because they didn't want to take ventilators from President Trump. But this Cuomo will mock Trump. Hey, Cuomo, why don't you worry about your lowlife murdering brother?
Only the best.
Again, so
Yeah,
I
you're
was
so
on with
cute,
O'Reilly,
Chris.
and he said, "Yo, Bolling, you're a MAGA psychophant. He can do no wrong." Is there anyone in this administration? I think you made a mistake with Lutnick. I believe you do. Chris, you and I were in New York when the World Trade Center came down, right?
Oh boy.
Howard Lutnick was CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. Howard wasn't at the World Trade Center the day it came down because he was taking his kid to school.
Right.
His brother dies. 115 of his employees die. The families of his employees didn't have money. They didn't have health care. They had to sue Howard Lutnick to get health care. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this is out there.
It's a bad history.
But it's 25 years ago, and people are like, "Oh, Howard Lutnick." They don't remember. Since then, my first experience.
You're mad at Howard Lutnick, but Chris Cuomo, and his murdering brother, the two murderers, are sitting right next to you. COVID wasn't even more than 5 years ago. You don't have a problem with them, though, right? Why don't you ask him about the thousands of old people that died horrible, lonely deaths in nursing homes because of the scumbag Cuomos?
With Howard Lutnick, because I was trading oil on the New York Mercantile Exchange. I was on the board. We were huge. We were growing. We were the premier oil trading platform in the world. For every single barrel of oil, price was discovered on the New York Merc, and it still is. I was a board member there. Howard calls from Cantor before the World Trade Center comes down. He says, "I'm going to put you guys out of business. I'm developing an oil contract that is going to bury the New York Mercantile Exchange." So I went over there with a couple of other board members to have a nice conversation with him to see if there's a way we could all work together to discover prices for oil. The more price discovery, the more people involved, the better. He just literally looked at us and I'm developed the contract putting you guys out of business. Make a long story short, the exchange is still here. It's a $150 billion entity, and Howard's making tariff.
Why do you think
numbers.
he is, though? Why do you think he is? So if for everybody they have a sword to die on, right? If we're talking about specific to tariffs, why do you think that's Lutnick's sword to die on?
Well, I think it's he sold it as his expertise. I mean, he came in as the commerce secretary and he had an idea. And Trump liked the idea. But the problem is that the idea of raising your own tariffs to reduce global tariffs on incoming imports, their exports, our imports, is a nice idea. It's maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe it throws people, the world into
you know
a global
better than
recession.
Trump.
I'm not sure, but he sold it, and Trump kind of liked the idea, and then it got away. It became something different. I think it'll get back to what the original was.
So by the way, I want to make sure we're fair here. Rob, can you pull up what happened with Lutnick? Because I don't know the whole
Look, they
what
got
I'm
a chunk
seeing-
of money as a settlement, right? As a lot of the people who were affected did. The initial criticism was that Lutnick had taken a lot of the money and it looked like it was going to go his way, not the family's way. Over time, he did more and more for the families. They got insurance, they got settlements.
Correct.
But it was a bad look early on. Is this about him committing a crime? No. Is it about him screwing them?
I'm not
period?
suggesting.
No.
I want to make sure because
But there
I'm
was
reading this
bad
here.
blood early on.
He promised to give 25% of Cantor's future profits to the families, the 658 employees who died. And over the years, he gave more than $180 million distributed to those families. He's also created a relief fund offering health care and financial support to those left behind. And Fitzgerald was one of the few companies who stayed in business after losing 2/3 of his staff. So he ended up making it right afterwards with some of the stuff. So I want to make sure we put that.
It depends who you ask, but
I get that.
It wound up better than it started, put it that way.
Sure.
But Eric is not wrong to say that the impression of him was very negative.
Fair enough. I wasn't there. I'm not.
What's the impression of your murdering brother who sexually harasses and sexually assaults 22-year-old interns and secretaries? Huh, Chris? You ever going to answer that question?
In the know of exactly what happened. If somebody is more interested in it, they can look into it and respond to it here. But let's go to tariffs. So Eric, Chris, it seems, are you guys both on the same page on the tariff position with what he's taking? Would you say you're relatively on the same page?
I'll add one piece,
please.
Okay, which is first, this is as nice an assessment as Trump is going to get of this, right? If this had been Biden who had done this, everybody's head would be on fire in this room right now. The ambition is a good ambition. The mistake the left.
Hold on, the centerists, Mr. We can have a conversation. Still sticking up for Joe Biden, who single-handedly destroyed the United States of America with him and his junky, corrupt son. Open border, inflation through the roof. I don't want to hear that Chris Cuomo is a centrist, a moderate. It's bullshit. That's what it is. Don't fall for this garbage.
Is making is hating the ambition. Helping the American worker, having new economy jobs here that pay more, bringing things back that we need to make here so that people can't hold us hostage like happened in the beginning of the pandemic when we didn't have any of the PPE that we needed. I think that's all good, and I think it's wrong to criticize it just because Trump is doing it. That's why I talk about the president and the administration a lot. I try to keep Trump's name out of it so people on the left can keep their heads straight about the idea. So I respect the ambition. You know the expression, we all know it. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And what they're doing here is a ready, shoot, aim situation. That's why he has to keep backing off. I have a little bit of a suspicion about why he's helping Cook. Cook gave him a ton of money. Why he's helping the car companies that he is, they gave him a ton of money. I don't think he should play favorites. How he wants to do this, Eric is right to question. And you're hearing it. It's not unusual criticism. But the ambition is a good one. I'm fine with what he wants to do. The question is this the way to get it done? It's very hard to find anybody who doesn't work for him who says yes.
Can we have a friendly banter here on this topic? Let's just kind of go through some of the ideas here. So what is the alternative? If they don't do it this way and we just sit there and you're like, look, just use the oil reserves. We have plenty of oil. We're going to be okay. Use that as the method of getting back, and, China needs our oil, but don't take this approach. Fair. If we go with that approach, you're assuming a similar type of a leader is going to get elected after him. What if he's not? What if it's going to be a different kind of a president that takes a different approach that doesn't?
Patrick is absolutely right. If it doesn't happen now, it'll never happen. America will never get out of debt unless President Trump handles it right now. That's why I have no patience listening to anybody that doesn't fully support President Trump, because you are totally clueless and a moron. If you can't see the amount of debt that America has accumulated because of Democrats, President Trump is the only person that's willing to try to fix it and is going to fix it. If he doesn't do it himself, guess what? It's never going to be fixed, and you can kiss America goodbye.
Believe in drill, baby, drill. So, okay, then let's go with tariffs. If we keep it the way it is, from 1971, where we kind of opened it up and they started doing business, to 2001, when World Trade Organization, they joined it and they kind of started doing more business, how much has China grown compared to us? What happened to us? How many of jobs did we give away? It almost sounds like, Eric, what you're saying is similar to what Yellen is saying. Yellen said bringing manufacturing back is a pipe dream. I don't understand the rationale for tariffs. You sound like Janet, if
Hold
that's
on.
your position.
Bringing manufacturing jobs back to America is a pipe dream? Really? We are the biggest consumers of products in the world. We buy everything. We shop all day. Amazon, here, there. Everything can be built in America in manufacturing and can be ordered in America. We don't need to order things from China, garbage products that create slave labor all around the world. Oh, Democrats, they're all about the people and the children. But their policies create slave labor, child labor around the world, where Trump will end that in 4 years if he keeps to the plan, which he will. And he will win like he always does.
And you can disagree with it, Rob, if you want to play this clip. This is Janet Yellen, former Treasury Secretary. Go ahead, Rob.
Perhaps it's to bring back American manufacturing, but I really think that's a pipe dream and not something that is likely to be accomplished. And we could even raise questions about whether or not, in a broad-based way, that's a desirable goal.
Okay, so this is traditional way of thinking establishment saying this is a pipe dream. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Janet Yellen should never have been Treasury Secretary. I think she's ridiculous. She's the one who said inflation was transitory when it was clearly not transitory for the better part of 4
So did Chris Cuomo, bro. Take a look to your, what is that, your right, left, whatever. Take a look next to you. He said the same thing for years. Oh, but he's a centrist and a moderate, according to you. Are you drunk?
years of Joe Biden's presidency. It was directly tied to their policy. I just happen to also question whether or not raising tariffs will actually create American jobs, and what kind of American jobs are we going to create here if we do this? And we're going to clearly product prices are going to go up if all things stay the same, tariffs stay high with China and others, product prices will go up globally. Hopefully there's enough demand to support the higher price. Maybe there is. I believe there's a lot of demand in the U.S. economy right now, but you have to worry about China. China right now is on that precipice of, is there enough demand to keep them paying for their growth? I'm not sure. So that's the risk. And the payoff would be, Patrick, is Tim Cook says, I'll give $500 billion. We're going to build $500 billion worth of manufacturing in America. Lutnick said, okay, we're going to have Americans screwing those little screws in iPhones. No, that's not how it happens. They come back, and if they do spend money to build a manufacturing plant here, which would be great, economic activity is good, they'll all be robotics. Every single iPhone will be built with robotics. The only reason why it's not happening now is because it's too expensive to build a new manufacturing plant with the robotics. But if you're going to make it expensive to import, then you'll do it here, and there won't be more Americans working in manufacturing. There'll be more manufacturing, but not more Americans manufacturing products and stuff. Everything's going robotic.
But that's going to happen no matter what. I mean,
Correct.
That's not. It's like saying, hey, when back in the days in the 1900s, 41% of people worked in.
His logic makes no sense. So we should build China's middle class and military while America's military and middle class gets weaker. That's what he's saying. That's what this idiot is saying. Makes sense, right? Yeah, it makes sense if you're a communist, liberal, democratic plant and a lowlife like Chris Cuomo and his buddy here, whatever his name is.
Farms, and then all of a sudden a tractor and fertilizer eliminated those jobs, and they're like, what the hell do I do? And everybody was afraid, but we adjusted. We pivoted to a different place.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
The key is the adjustment. That's why Trump shouldn't liken this to the Gilded Age. Okay, I'm sure we all saw what was in the Woodward book where Gary Cohn was trying to explain to the then president in the first term, we don't want to go back to the Gilded Age. Americans don't want that kind of job. We can do better than that. And Trump, for whatever reason, was fixated on that being America's best time, which is hard to justify economically. You are right to characterize what Lutnick said the way you are, because his quote was taken out of context. He gave a nod that we're not going to be turning screws. Those will be robotic jobs. But why? China underwrites the cost of those factories in their country. So you say you want to start one. We come in with valuetainment. We want to do it as a consortium. China underwrites it. That's what the United States has to do. So it's not just starting with tariffs. It's not going to get you where you want to be. The ambition is fine. But what I don't like is China is outplaying us right now in this moment. They see an opportunity. We overreached. We pissed everybody off. Everybody wants to meet with China all of a sudden, which did not happen before.
Who's everybody?
Japan, South Korea, the EU. They're taking
people that don't matter. And he just loves to piss on President Trump. That's all he's trying to do, is make President Trump look bad because he has Trump derangement syndrome. Mr. Moderate, Mr. Centrist here, but he's in love with Joe Biden. This whole talk that Chris Cuomo, I like to sit down with the other side, because they're trying to regain power again. Clown.
meetings. Vietnam didn't just talk to Xi. They signed over a dozen new trade deals in that meeting. So China isn't reciprocal tariffing us. What are they doing? Restricting, meaning what? They're not going to punish their consumers to the extent that they have a robust base there. They're just not allowing us access to these things. They are being very savvy.
They need us, though.
They definitely need us.
They can play with Vietnam and whomever else they want to play with all they want.
But what are we, maybe net 20% of their business? 20%? We're 14% of exports, maybe 16%?
Probably higher than that number, and probably higher on a profitability basis too, because not only we don't just buy the little, the Sharpies, we buy iPhones and expensive, so there's a lot more profit margin in the stuff we buy. They can't live without. They can't, Chris. They're on a path to not be able to actually go into more than a recession, maybe even a depression. They can't keep up. I mean, they've grown. They had massive growth. Their growth is almost stopped.
But they have
completely.
Structural advantages that Trump doesn't have to worry
yeah,
about.
in labor.
The people don't matter.
In labor. Yeah.
Politicians don't matter.
Labor costs.
The currency doesn't matter. You know, they have control over
But let
everything.
me ask you a question, though. Okay, everything you're saying there, this is kind of how I process it.
Only Chris Cuomo could make that sound like it's a good thing for China and a bad thing for President Trump, because President Trump cares about the people here. Only Chris Cuomo. Listen, I know numerous families that lost loved ones because of this scumbag and his murdering brother. I know like 4 families that lost loved ones in nursing homes because of this piece of shit.
Problem with the U.S. politics, here's a problem that I see, is the leverage he has is what? When is his next election?
She never.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So the problem we have with America is what? When is our next election?
Really, like in 16 months.
Yeah, midterms.
Yeah,
okay, so what happens if there's a bloodbath and then, hey, look what's going on? So then
That's
they
right.
got to pivot and, oh my God. So the challenge I have is the following. If we don't do something now, and the next president doesn't, and the next
right.
everybody keeps, what's the word?
Kicking the can down the road.
Hey, you know, let's just get. And then eventually, all of a sudden, you're going to wake up one day and they're going to be like, hey, guess what? We got you. Now we have you. So because we don't want to deal with a little bit of pain today, we're like,
How do they have us?
no.
How do they have us? And the portrayal is that because we have such a trade.
Patrick Bet-David's statement is absolutely 1,000% correct. You have to handle it. President Trump needs to handle it now. The market will be bumpy for a while. We might suffer a little bit, but for the survival of the United States of America, it's necessary. You can't keep passing it on to the next president, and it never gets done, while China, our mortal enemy, becomes stronger and stronger and stronger with a stronger middle class and a stronger military than Americans. That's it. Than America's, excuse me.
Massive trade imbalance. We're at some sort
Pull
of
up numbers, Rob.
They're there. I
Pull
agree
up
with
numbers.
you.
Pull
There's
up
a
numbers.
$1 trillion trade.
But tariffs aren't the reason for the
Pull
imbalance.
up the numbers. Where was China? Where did China rank in GDP in 1971? Go in 1971. Where was China? Okay. So where do they have us? China was ranked what? China's global rank is number 8. It gives out 2 points in 1970, suggesting a similar rank 71. Okay. Then go to where they were in 2001, pre-WTO. Okay. And WTO, they were ranked what?
Third. They jumped up.
Okay, go to 2000 instead of 2001. Go to 2000. 2000, they're still third? Sixth. So they go from sixth. So, boom. Top 10, sixth. WTO, third. Where are they today? Go to where they are today. Second. Okay, so what are the projection of where they're going to be by 2030?
First.
2035, 2040. Yeah. So we're supposed to sit here and just kind of cave and say, a new regime's in town?
It's not about the what, it's about the how. The argument you're having is about, it's not that we got to do something about China. We have to figure out how to protect ourselves and advance.
Oh, yeah, Chris, you know what we could do? We could have Joe Biden, his druggy, junky son, a pedophile. We can send them over to deal with China, and they'll be able to handle the situation according to you.
Ourselves. I think people can get on the same page with that, or they should. It's the how. The trade deficit is not because of tariffs. In fact, when they got into the WTO, what did they have to do to get into it? Lower their tariffs. So as the trade deficit was growing, they were actually lowering tariffs. So the point is, and what pisses off people like Eric who understand tariffs, is it's not the right mechanism.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that, Chris. Let me put it to you how I look at it. So you said the way they could get in WTO was what? To lower their tariffs.
They lowered their tariffs when they got in.
So let me ask you a question.
And for years after that.
So let me ask you a question. How much has China shown a track record of following rules and guidelines and things that asked in agreements
they
to
cheat.
do?
They steal our stuff. They may be helping right now in the Ukraine war by giving Russia manpower.
Soldiers.
So let me get this straight. They have a track record of agreeing on certain terms and not following through on the terms. And you want us to take the negotiation seriously and try to play nice with these guys? It's not like you're dealing with somebody. When you deal with somebody, you do business, you'll have a phone call. You guys been in the entertainment business for a while. You know who to call that, whatever they say, it's going to get done. And I guarantee you, both of you guys have a name that no matter what they say, you better verify it 17 times because nothing that person ever said was real.
I just don't know that tariffs is the right punch to throw to knock them out.
What's the alternative, though? What's the alternative?
That's the discussion to have.
No, but
give me a effing break. He's just Trump derangement syndrome. This idiot wants you to think that he knows more than President Trump. The two idiots, Chris Cuomo and the other moron, you two idiots know more than President Trump, and you can handle it and not him. That's a discussion to have. What the F have you two morons or any other Democrat? Hussein Obama can't even run a hot dog stand, but liberals can figure it out. Liberals and Democratic policies have destroyed the United States of America. Clowns.
So I can give you an alternative.
Let's hear it.
Open up our markets. Trump loves to drill for oil. If we became a global major exporter of oil, I mean,
that's a term, though. You have it's only a period.
So China goes to number one, Patrick. Let's say they take over the United States in 2, 3, 5 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Do it by per capita now. They have 5 times our population.
But they also don't care about how broke they are.
But they
don't care about that.
From a third world country to a developed
They're not wired
nation.
like you. They're not wired like us.
My point is, we get hung up. Are we first or second? Are we the biggest military or the second biggest military? My point is, we're the most powerful country. It doesn't matter if China has a bigger GDP than the United States. We'll still be a heck of a lot more powerful than they will.
You see, this is why I think this guy is a liberal and Democrat. It's not complicated at all. I'm so happy that Patrick gets it because I don't want to criticize him. So I'm so thrilled that he gets it. Only Democrats, liberal, Antifa, communist scum have a problem with what President Trump is doing.
They would love to have what we have.
Based on what, though? Based on what?
Our buying power. We have a consumer that is the strongest consumer on the planet. Our economy is the strongest economy.
And let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Per capita GDP.
If this continues, who's a slave to who?
There you go.
We can never be a slave to them. We buy their shit. We sell them stuff. We pay them. They can't
what
stop.
Happened?
And they have a lot of our debt. If they put us into a depression, and we default on the trillions of dollars of our debt that they hold, they don't want to do that either.
Yeah, but okay? So here's the more I'm listening to what we're saying, the more I'm processing it as let's find a way to make it good now.
Yes.
Okay. It's kind of like,
although I don't believe anybody is going to run away from something that's working. The Democrats criticized Trump's tariffs on China in the first term. Biden left them in. Mm-hmm. People don't run away from success.
No, what I'm saying to you is if we have a chance to have this.
Chris has a moment of clarity. Oh, Biden left Trump's tariffs in. Trump's doing tariffs again. President Trump's doing it again. But Cuomo has a problem with it. It's called liberalism. Chris Cuomo has a mental disorder just like the rest of them.
Tough conversation now. I have a feeling if we don't do it now, this may be the last chance ever to have it. And why? Let me explain why. Here's what I mean by why. When's the last time we had a guy like Trump as a president?
Never.
4 years ago.
Exactly. Meaning himself. That's what he's saying. So when's the last? Was Reagan like a Trump?
No.
Was Reagan more willing? If you read the Jim Baker book, and you read about Reagan was actually willing to compromise, right?
Yes.
So Reagan had a different approach that he would still work with the establishment a little bit and kind of, be able to make that stuff work. To me, if there is a wild card in this equation of a guy that can, I was talking to a couple NBA guys the other day with Scottie Pippen, and we're talking about a guy named Zion Williamson, okay, who's
fat is what Zion is.
So, exactly. But you know what I said? I said, let me ask you a question. Earlier, when I asked him about the whole challenge with Miami, he says everybody leaves Miami. Why is that? He says because of Pat Riley. Really, why? Because Pat is known for that. He has a reputation. He drives people too hard. I said, great. 30 minutes later, I say, let me ask you a question. Zion Williamson, if there's a coach or somebody in the NBA that could change him, who would it be? He said, Pat Riley. I said, wait a minute, you can't say this. He says, I can. I said, what are you doing here? But the point is what? It takes an effing Pat Riley to change certain things. And I think the chances of getting...
That was my comment a while ago. President Trump was born and made and designed by God for this moment in time to fix the United States of America. He's the only man on the entire planet that can deal with China and the rest of our enemies.
Getting another Trump in 4, 8, 12, 6. I don't know if we're going to see
but I don't know
like
that you need it. There's a plus minus on how he is. Aggression is good. Trump is aggressive. He is assertive. He sees everything as a nail and he's a hammer. Okay. But it's still about how good the strategy is and what the mechanism is for change.
Too early to tell.
Our biggest advantage over China is our alliances. Okay. And that's why people were worried about the soft power. That's why people were worried about how
Cuomo knows. He can't even hook up a ventilator to save, senior citizens' lives and lets them all die. Piece of shit.
Talk to your allies. When you see the EU saying we're going to take, not just Spain, right? We're going to take meetings with China, that's a middle finger to us. And the reason they're giving a middle finger to us because they want to give it to Trump because of how he talks about them. Now, you can say, yeah, but he's strong. You need your friends to beat China, not just because of the number of human beings, but because of the concentration of power.
America doesn't need any help from anybody to defeat China. Nobody. That's why we need to bring all our manufacturing back here to make us even stronger. You know what, Cuomo? Go to China and get on your knees. Do us all a favor.
The criticism is the way you're going about this is not going to get it done. But what you want to get done is the right thing to go after.
Tom, do you have final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know, Chris, about that point on the EU. I mean, the EU paraded Ursula von der Leyen, who's president of the EU Commission, the Economic Commission, right? And they paraded her out for the last week. And she said, well, EU likes a good deal, would like a good deal, number one. Number two, she was saying things about, hey, we want to come negotiate this. We believe more in moderation. Because they send her out with the moderation message so that they can take these populist messages, except Italy, forward to their media about, we're not going to be bullied by Trump. We're not going to be like this and everything. Meanwhile, they're coming out being very open about it. And meanwhile,
being open about what? I don't understand your point.
No, she's talking about we want to come negotiate this, and this.
Right.
Right. And so they send out Ursula von der Leyen to make those statements. Meanwhile, Macron says, I don't know about this. This guy is such a bully. You see the difference?
Yeah, but I'm saying
so
they say they're going to meet with China. They shouldn't be saying that. They are our friend, not China's friend.
Well,
and what's happening right now is a realignment because people are pissed at Trump. And that's not necessarily good.
Look deeper into it, right? Huge. Auto industry is big in Europe. Okay.
Yes.
So what's happening? Why is Renault Nissan going to EU Commission saying we need to investigate what's going on in Hungary with BYD? They're building a factory there. They're going to ship the cars over here. They're subsidizing it, and they're going to screw all of us on the equivalent of, cost dumping because they're going to subsidize the whole thing. And so I don't see a lot of love there for all of what's going on in the auto industry in Europe. And that's one of the things Ursula von der Leyen was talking about. And I'm no fan of her. But my point was I'm sitting there watching her versus watching prime ministers and things and presidents and saying, as much as they're pissed at Trump, they're scared to death of what China is doing. And so they're not running over there with open arms. I was on record in the beginning, Chris. I said, look, these tariffs are going to be tactics, not taxes. And I said that many, many times, and people clicked on it and said, I think you're crazy. I don't think I'm crazy. I think that's what's happening now. But if you look at the tariff like a medication, you're saying that's the wrong medication to be giving the patient. Okay, you can certainly say that. But you got to do it. You still have to cure the patient now. And I believe these are tactics, not taxes. Do I think that the calculation was like a wrong way to do it and opened your flank ups to all kinds of criticism? Yes. But is it still the right thing to do to kind of, hey, this is Holy Week, to flip over the tables and say we're going to change this? Yes.
Maybe.
I think it's too early. Like you said, but by the way, guys, this isn't my wheelhouse. But just as an average American looking out, I think it's way too early. China, I don't care. Listen, we're at war with China. We're not shooting guns. We're not dropping bombs. We're 100% at war with them. And by the way, they've gotten away for the past 4 years of what? Flying spy balloons for what? Nobody gave a damn. They bought land by all of our military bases. Malmstrom Air Force Base, Nobody. Nobody's saying anything. You need something drastic. I think it's a little bit early. let him cook, let him do his thing. And then at what point, here's my question, at what point do we go, okay, didn't work, and we have to shift gears? At what point? Because we're saying 2 years.
No, I don't think it's 2 years. I think it's like, and by the way, if some people are saying as early as this summer, if the market by summer is choppy, this is not going to be pretty.
Right.
Some are saying midterms. Midterms, if it
Too late.
goes like this, I know it's too late.
You'll get wiped out.
Wiped out. So it could be summer is the latest. Some are some, but again, this is the part about how things work in negotiation. If you read Trump's book of Art of the Deal, the amount of times he was willing to go past the level of pain that the average negotiator couldn't handle, that's a skill set. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's going to practice that here, because in that sense, the pain is you.
Us.
Him, Trump, because it's your deal.
Mm.
But in this sense, the pain is who? The people.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he's going to manage that pain, because maybe he can handle pain for himself and his employees, but maybe the pain when he sees around his people, what they're going to be saying, maybe it's going to be different.
I don't think anyone saw a $10 trillion meltdown in the equity markets.
Right.
I mean, the day before they announced, we knew the announcement was coming on April 2nd. We knew it was coming. April 1st, the market was up, flat top a little bit. A 10 trillion, 1,600 on a Friday, 2,600 on the Monday, 1,500 the next day, up at that. When that happened, Trump's smart. He said, wait a minute, maybe this isn't the right. We thought it sounded great, and I agree with you that it should have been, let's use this to lower all tariffs. But they didn't realize how much the market anticipated the downdraft.
But why do your guys feel that way in the markets? Okay, like I've done a really weird thing on my show since this happened.
Because
I have pros on the show.
A global recession.
Yeah,
that's why.
So guys who are like you guys, I'm having them come on my show now, not polished TV people to talk economics. These are guys, they're real institutional traders. They're real economics working as analysts for big places. And they're saying, look, they needed to message this first. You had to tell us what your plan was, why you were doing it this way, and you had to hold to it, because we're afraid with Trump of uncertainty, or what, we call chaos in the punditry business. And they didn't do that. And I think they didn't do it because he didn't have a plan. He had what Tom is talking about, which is a basic feel and a tactic to get it in. And now let's see what happens. And the markets don't like that.
You notice what all these liberal scum and Democratic scum do? They always try to paint President Trump that he doesn't have a plan, that he's not calculated, that it's just pure chaos. F. Chris Cuomo and his murdering brother.
And the problem is he's not she. He can't look at the people who don't like what he's doing and saying, but you're going to stay quiet because I'll kill you. Trump can't do that.
No,
he's got to be responsive to the criticism. And the problem is when he's responsive to the criticism, it makes it even worse, because now it's feeding the sense of uncertainty. Well, what's he going to change next? Well, which is this going to happen? Are these going to happen or not? How do I plan? Where do I put my money? That's what you're seeing happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this leads to story of Ray Dalio and Jamie Dimon. Ray Dalio says, I'm worried about something worse than a recession. Okay, Rob, if you want to play this clip, and then we'll go to Jamie right afterwards. Here's Ray Dalio.
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive.
Okay.
How that's handled.
So that's Ray Dalio. So he's saying something worse than a recession, which is what? Depression, right? Okay, so this is Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon is taking a different position. He's on Fox Business. Go ahead, Rob.
My final question for you, after all of these incredible years of success and leadership in this great nation and the world, what tips do you want to give the younger generation who is coming up and watching you and wanting to learn how you achieved all of this? Give us some advice.
So work hard, learn, read everybody. Don't get into the ecosystem of Democrats, Republicans.
He gets to the recession clip in this clip, but it's very brief.
Okay, go ahead.
Conservatives, progressives, read everybody. Learn. Get to know, learn from everybody else. I learned a tremendous amount from talking to other people, not just from sitting by myself. So educate yourself.
When is it
learn how to take care of yourself.
Come on,
if you don't take care of your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, your friends, your family, you're not going to have a great life. And enjoy it. Enjoy it every step of the way. And so have a little heart and humanity. Treat people properly. I grew up, with the way you treat people is you treat everyone fair and honest and forthright, whether it's a cab driver or waiter
bothers me, by the
or a CEO. And so
he does. It's just there's something about this guy that feels like he's always trying to say the right thing at the right time, and always trying to seem like he's on the right side of whatever it is. And I feel like, I covered the 2008 TARP and TALF stuff for ABC News, okay? And I had worked in mezzanine finance before I got into this, and they didn't have a business correspondent at the time. And that guy was always saying what he needed to say for himself in that moment. But he always wanted to make it like he was there for the little guy and for the people. And I think he's full of shit, that guy. There's something.
You know what's funny, Chris? You just described yourself. That's exactly what you're accusing him of doing. That's what you do. You pretend you're for the little guy. You pretend that you're emotionally invested in everything that's going on and that you really care about people. It's nobody turned and looked at you and said, that's ironic, Chris, because what you're accusing him of, that's what you did on CNN the whole time you were there, and that's why you got fired.
Something about him that really, I don't trust that he's coming from a good place, this guy, when he says things. Not that he's not smart, not that he doesn't get it. He just
like you, Chris. You're not coming from a good place. You're a manipulating, lying, communist, Trump deranged, murdering piece of you-know-what.
He's too convenient with what he says. It makes me think
Just
that
like
he's not
you,
anchored
Chris.
by anything.
I actually think he's brilliant. I think he's the...
Just like Chris, it's too convenient. Chris Cuomo will flip-flop at any given second when it benefits him because he is garbage. I'm going to end it with that. Like I said before, I know 3 or 4 families that were affected, had loved ones died because of this murdering piece of shit and his brother. I'm done. You get the point. I don't know why Patrick Bet-David keeps having these liberals on. He can have liberals on all day. When they pretend like they're moderates, like Chris Cuomo, Bill Maher, Stephen A. Smith, but meanwhile, they vote for every Democrat. They support every Democratic policy. They go against President Trump. No matter what he does, that's not a moderate. Those are con men. Those are liars. Those are communists. Those are guys trying to get power back for their party.